Hey y'all, it's Crystal. Thanks for coming by today. I just want to do a little quick mid-month reading check-in for May and just to talk a little bit about what I've been reading so far, just so I don't have so much to talk about at the end of the month. So most of my May has definitely been taking part of Zombiethon, which is created by Kat over at Cat's Novel Adventures. Been reading some zombie stuff, watching some zombie stuff. I've been having fun with that so far. Been doing a little bit of horror mayhem and a little bit of like library holds coming in, that kind of thing. So my May has been pretty good so far. I've been enjoying it. Let's jump right into it. So first up, I did listen to the audiobook for The Emperor's Railroad by Guy Haley. So this is, I did read this for Zombiethon. This is a different sort of zombie story. So if you're looking for something a little different, I would definitely recommend. It was a short listen. It's not a super long book, even though it is a sort of fantastical, fantasy type setting. But it was, I really enjoyed this. This, like I said, is a sort of fantasy, seemingly post-apocalyptic sort of type of world, right? Where definitely some sort of, something has happened, right? And it does take place in sort of what once upon a time was sort of America, because it does mention sort of like cities that are and locations that are familiar. But I think something like 1,000 years has passed since then. So, I mean, that's like, the Virginia or whatever of today is not, is definitely not, is lost to time in history, of course, right? And so we're following, our main character is this sort of young boy who is traveling with his mother. The father had just recently passed away, and so the mother is had left town, or their little community that they were part of, to go stay with like a cousin in a different sort of community, which these communities are kind of popped up everywhere in old cities, like old Charleston is mentioned, things like that. But they're sort of safeguarded and things like that. And there's smaller communities, which you have to, again, sort of safeguard against, these zombie-ish type things that are going on, and some other stuff that's happening. We'll get into that a little bit. So along the way, they are traveling with like a mail courier, essentially, and who is killed along the way by some of these zombie type figures. And this sort of knight kind of figure rolls in and saves the day and sort of takes it upon himself to, guide the mother and her son to this new community. That's the gist. And so it becomes a slightly kind of, road trip sort of story. And of course, along the way, we kind of learned about this world and what's going on and who is this sort of mysterious man. I forget his name because I'm not good at character names. But, him being a, like I said, sort of knight type of figure. And what does that mean? And things like that. And again, we just, filling in the history of this world and things along the way. Again, they are these sort of zombie type figure, creatures that you have to be aware of. And there are also dragons. Yeah, I'm telling you, this was just such super interesting world building. It was really came to life. And again, in just a pretty short book, really came to life. The characters were so interesting and intriguing. Some good kind of zombie violence and gore. We got some sword wielding. So it's not like shooting people with guns and stuff. It's swords and bows and arrows, that kind of stuff, because the world has collapsed, right? And I don't know, if you're looking for something a little out of the box for zombie fiction, again, but maybe you're a fantasy reader, I would highly recommend this book because, oh my gosh, I enjoyed it. It was so super interesting, and the writing was great, characters were great, setting was great. Yeah, it was very inventive, the sort of creatures that are existing in this world, and loved it. I don't know, I really highly recommend it. Really enjoyed it. Okay, next up, I read The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. I had put this on hold in my library and it came in, so I had to take it back. So I don't have the physical copy with me anymore, but the cover is stunning. And I loved this. I loved this. I devoured this in just a few days. I thought it was phenomenal. This is you got a dual timeline type of story with a sort of historical era and then a more modern sort of set story. And it's just fantastic. So, the crux of the story is our more modern, timeline. We're following, this woman who is a professor, and she's trying to get a book published so that she can get tenure. It's like something she's trying to do, right? And lo and behold, something is found at a construction site and ends up being this sort of old journal kind of diary thing that was found during this construction. And it was brought to this woman's attention because it was something that belonged to sort of like a family member of hers from, the late 1800s. And so she's kind of brought into this, and she starts investigating, and they're reading the journal entries and things like that. And what we discover along the way is, of course, the story that's being told in our sort of past timeline. And it's set, sort of out in the West, and it is following, the tales of what's happened back then, right? Or the guy writing the journal is, essentially someone who lived in a little town and was a priest, or not priest, like a preacher, I guess, and in this kind of small little town, and then what kind of blows into town one day, and it's someone telling him a story, and he's relating this story into the diary. Essentially, that's the gist of it. And the man telling him this story is this Native American man who we find out a lot about. Perhaps he is a vampire. There's a lot in here, of course, about things that happened historically to the Native American population here in the U.S. The absolute, sort of annihilation of the buffalo, here in this land too. What that did to the indigenous population. They just pure greed of white people, murder and annihilation of course, Native American people here. All of that's in here. All of that is in here. There's this sort of tone of sort of revenge and things like that from this man in the past. It is, I feel like I'm not really describing it very well, but this is stellar. I think it's very important. I think it's a very important read through this lens of horror, and I loved it. I just absolutely loved it, and I don't know, just read it. It's fantastic. That's all I can really say. It's just fantastic, and the characters are so rich. The setting's so rich. The way Stephen Graham Jones writes everything, it's just stunning. There's some real good horror in here too, especially in the more present scene. Like, if you know what I'm talking about, like, wow, like some crazy stuff going on in here. It's kind of wild, and I loved it. I loved every single word, and yeah, gonna be a fave of the year for me. Next up, I had an audiobook hold come in. This one I had on hold for a while. Sometimes you get those Libby holds. You're like, you have a 6-month wait. I think this is maybe one of those that just came in on a whim, right? But this is the 100 Years War on Palestine, a history of settler colonial conquest and resistance from 1917 to 2017. Long title. But this is by Rashid Khalidi. Again, this is one I've been wanting to read, and I'm so glad that the hold finally came in. I got to listen to the audio. For me, this was very informative. I'm going to be honest. I just someone that never really knew all the ins and outs of kind of what's going on in sort of with Palestine and Israel and the real history of it, particularly in the earlier 1900 time frame that he starts with this. This is a nonfiction book, of course, that he starts the book with those sort of earlier times, and kind of just how everything's escalated and became what it is and all that kind of stuff, right? So for me, it was very informative. And so if you are just at all interested in, sort of, the kind of the what's and the whys and everything that happens in that part of the world, and are maybe just a little fuzzy or just not quite understanding of what's going on, I highly recommend this. Honestly, it's very informative, and I just feel like I have a slight more sort of just a grasp of just, kind of like I said, the ins and outs of, what's happening and why it's happening and yada, yada, yada. So to me, I think this is very stellar, very informative, and highly recommend it. Just really recommend it. Really good stuff there. Okay, for Zombiethon, I read Coldbrook, by Tim Lebbon. This was one that had been put on my radar for a while now. I remember hearing Rachel over at the Shades of Orange talk about this, and so I put it on my list, and lo and behold, my library, actually had it, so I checked it out from Libby and read it through the ebook there. And this is a bit on the longer side, but I also kind of really sped through this as well. I really enjoyed this. This is, again, another kind of zombie book with a bit of a different flavor to it. So again, if you're looking for something a bit different from a zombie book, I would definitely recommend this one. And yeah, just really interesting. So the crux of this story is when the story opens, we are in a place called Coldbrook, which is this sort of underground facility in the Appalachian Mountains that are doing these experiments to essentially open up a sort of portal to another Earth, a multiverse, something like that. And they do that. And so these people are down there just sort of monitoring this, that they finally, has opened the world, right? No one's gone through anything yet, but they're just kind of monitoring, and they have this sort of safeguard of that if something does come in through the sort of portal, that kind of takes care of it, and things like that. Until something comes in and the safeguard fails, right? And that thing that comes in is a zombie. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, so this starts, of course, holy hell. And it is, in that way, it's very sort of common type of zombie story of how, like I said, all hell breaks loose, right? Where safeguards fail. Humans, do things that they shouldn't, even though they know that they should, even though they know that they shouldn't, which causes the world to end, that kind of thing. And so let's see, because there's two different kind of things going on. There's a story in our Earth that's happening, which is, again, when the virus, and this is a virus story, but the zombies are definitely, they chase you and bite you to pass on the virus, but they don't like devour brains stuff. They're not that type of zombie. They're fast, okay? They're very fast, and just lethal, yeah. And the virus itself, just it's quick. You're bitten, and not even a minute later, you are one of those people. You are one of them, right? And so it just spreads fast. We're following a few different characters as they are dealing with this outbreak, both in the facility and out in the greater world. And seeing just how fast, honestly, how fast things collapse. So there's that side of the story. And then, like, in the initial, I feel like I'm talking too much, but anyway, in the initial, when the creature comes through from the portal, in that hullabaloo, right, one of the people from our Earth jumps into that portal because that's her only way out. And so then she is now in this other Earth. And so we see from their perspective, which is about 40 or 50 years sort of post a viral epidemic, kind of what's happening there and how they've been dealing with it. Maybe they can work together to to help to help their Earth. There's a lot of things going on. So like I said, I just had a really great time with this. It was so interesting. And there's something else that happens that it just kind of blows my mind a little bit that I don't want to tell you because you just need to read it. Like the whole sort of ending, sort of quarter or so was just really fascinating to me, the way what Tim Lebbon was doing here. And I really enjoyed this, really enjoyed it. And again, just really good writing, good characters, some good action, there's running away from zombies action, there's, killing zombies, there's all that kind of good stuff. I just really had a good time with it. So I definitely recommend it. Again, if you're looking for something a little bit different, because this definitely has, that science fiction element of, alternate Earths and portals and all kinds of things. So, super interesting. Just very, very cool. I enjoyed it. I did read not a manga. I don't know why I said manga, because it's not a manga. It's a graphic novel. It is called Revival. I read volume 1, You're Among Friends. This is by Tim Seeley. I think this was another recommendation that I got from Rachel at the Shades of Orange. And I found this, that my Hoopla actually has a lot of these, and so I'm definitely going to read more. But I did read volume 1, really enjoyed this also. And again, I say kind of a different kind of zombie story as well. And let me pause here for a second because, oh my gosh, something in my eye. Okay. Yeah. Also, like I said, also a very different sort of zombie story. We're kind of set in this small town, and we're following a little handful of characters. Mainly, our main character is this female, like police officer, and her father is the sheriff, and she's like divorced and has a kid, stuff like that, and she's just being trying to impress her dad, and things like that. She has a sister who's in college, who's a bit more of the freewheeler and kind of does what she wants, things like that. Pretty soon, though, as the story opens, let's start over. So as the story opens, we've got basically what do you call it? A funeral home, and they are about to, put somebody in the crematorium, and as they put it in there, the body in there, and it's on fire, it comes back to life. And then there's because we're in like a morgue essentially. There's another body that comes back to life. So people are have coming back to life, and what they call this event, and it's just kind of happening in this town from what it seems, is they're calling them revivers, essentially, because they've just been kind of revived from life. So again, they're not zombies again in necessarily the same way that they're like chomping and eating brains, but they're undead essentially. And it's like 30, 40 people. So I don't know if there's a specific number, but anyway. And so we're following the people in this town that they kind of deal with it. One of our characters is a lady police officer. There's someone that's coming from the CDC to kind of investigate, and there's a sheriff. There's the lady cop has a younger sister who is a reviver herself, and there seems to be like a murder mystery happening there because she was murdered and then, like I said, come back. I feel like there's somebody else. Anyway, this whole, like I said, a little cast of characters from this little small town that are just trying to figure out what in the world's going on. There's also something else going on here, of course, because why are people coming back to life, of course. But there's also there's some sort of entity floating around this town that sometimes people are seeing and stuff too. So there's something astray, something awry, of course. So I definitely want to read the other volume to figure out what in the world's going on because I'm super interested. And it's really good. If you're looking for a graphic novel, zombie story, give it a go because those read pretty quick. So just this morning, actually, I read a short story called Rotting Desires by Arianna Burnett. And this was just a little story that I had on my Kindle. And it kind of piqued my interest because I think it's zombie erotica, I think is what, there's a sort of subtitle underneath that. I was like, let me check this out. And yeah, a little bit of that going on in here. So this takes place in Jamaica, and basically a zombie apocalypse has happened. This sort of I say zombie apocalypse, but this sort of super flu has made its way through Jamaica, and we're following our main character, who is this woman who's she's just trying to go to work one day and seeing that something ain't right. It's a short story, so there's really not a lot going on. But the erotica part about it is sometimes some of the people that sort of turn into zombies like to do the deed. I'll just say that. So that's where the erotica parts come in. This was fun. It's a short story. I think it was like 30 pages, if it was even that. It was a fun little story. Definitely a different kind of zombie story. If you're looking for something different, give it a go. If you want to hear about zombies banging each other, this is the story for you, really. Honestly. So give it a go. It was a fun time. I had it on my Kindle. I cleared it off my Kindle. I'm still trying to do read what you own, so there we go. Have that. So, I mean, again, pretty successful reading month so far. Except for this one. I did try to read Zombie Bake Off by Stephen Graham Jones. You guys, I could not. I could not. And that's okay. I don't give a daggone flip about what's going on in this. I don't understand it. I don't know what is the point here. I think I got to maybe, I don't know, I didn't get super far in, I will say. But I got far enough. A big note from me. And it's okay, because guess what? I can unhaul it now. Yeah, exactly. We're clearing off the shelves, you guys. Yes. So currently reading, I am making my way through Look at Our Holes, the anthology. And I've only read a few stories so far, but I'm going to try to finish out the month and really dig into these stories, because I'd like to get these finished. The story I just read this morning was phenomenal. It is Descend as directed by Brendan Vedito. Holy moly, that was a good story. Anyway, that was good. So, and next up, I think I want to start Apocalypse Cow. I want to, again, just give this a go, see how I like it. And I've had it on every single Zombiethon TBR. This is the year. This is the year, you guys. I want to do that. I've got the audiobook queued up for Laguna Beach, which is our book club pick for Death by TBR. So I'm gonna listen to that this week. And then I still got some time, so we'll see what all I get into for the rest of the month. So it should be fun. So that's it, I think, for what I've been reading so far. I hope you have had a pretty good month so far. Let me know what you've been getting into. What's your favorite thing so far? For me, definitely Buffalo Hunter so far for the month. Wow, so good. Yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you're doing well, hanging in there, taking care of yourself, having a little fun along the way. You know. Let's hang in there, right? Thanks for watching. I'll catch you at the end of the month when I'll wrap up what all I got into for the rest of the month. All right? Bye.